We have our first official Shams bomb of the 2025 NBA season. You see the Julius Randle highlights popping up on the screen right now. Future me is going to put on the actual trade, like in a box in the middle. It'll be up, so you guys are going to know what I'm talking about. But yeah, obviously Shams bomb doesn't sound the best. Maybe we'll workshop some more names. I've heard Shams Wow. I have no idea what that means. We have the Shamber Alert, which I'm kind of messing with, but let's try to get some more ideas for that Shams News Alert because Shams Bomb, I don't know about that one. And obviously, you can argue that for one way or another. But we're going to be talking about the Julius Randle, Karl Anthony Towns trade. Dante DiVincenzo was in it as well. Make sure to like, subscribe, go into the description, submit your video ideas, and let's get right into this huge trade. So the official trade was Julius Randle and Dante DiVincenzo, and a 2025, I think it was a top 13 protected pick from the Detroit Pistons. I think it's going to be top 13 protected for 2025, 2026, 2027. And to be honest, where will the Pistons be until then? I'm not sure. I know for sure they won't make the playoffs next year, so I do not expect the Timberwolves to get that pick. But who the Timberwolves traded? Karl Anthony Towns. How long has he been a Timberwolf? 2015, so I think that's 9 years now. Yeah, that's just your franchise's second greatest player of all time. I mean, obviously you have Kevin Garnett, but he's felt like he's been there for the ups and the downs for that franchise. So I'm just surprised about how sudden the trade was, especially when you have a guy long tenured as Karl Anthony Towns. I thought we were going to potentially see a, I guess, more of a rumor before the trade came out that the Timberwolves were looking to shop him so he could get prepared. But it sounded like one, maybe 2 days before the trade happened, Tim Connolly and other guys of the Minnesota Timberwolves front office went to Cat's house, explained what was happening, and obviously a couple minutes before Shams broke the news, Karl Anthony Towns came up with that tweet you see on the screen right now because, like I said, I'm the best editor on the earth. Yeah, he just randomly tweeted that, and it looks like yeah, he got traded. Now it's time to start with my favorite parts. What this actually means, how this is actually going to look, and what's going to actually happen. And because we have Julius Randle on the highlights right now, on the screen right now, we're going to talk about the Timberwolves side of things. Now, immediately when I saw this, I can't say I hated it for the Timberwolves. I might have just been more because I was just surprised about the trade in general. I wasn't like, why did the Timberwolves get Julius Randle? I was more like, why did this trade actually happen? Like, it didn't make any sense. But now that I'm thinking about it, or now that I thought about it for what, 2, 3 days now, I do not really like this for the Timberwolves. Now, before me explaining about how much I don't like this, why I don't think it works, I'm going to explain why this trade had to happen. Karl Anthony Towns is a top 10 paid player in the NBA right now. Anthony Edwards is going to be a top five, maybe top four, maybe top three, maybe top two, maybe top one paid player in the NBA. Jaden McDaniels just got that huge contract extension last or 2 off seasons ago. Nas Reed just got that contract extension last year where he's also making a lot of money. And we know what money Rudy Gobert makes as well. So they had to get rid of that Karl Anthony Towns contract because this Timberwolves front office has never paid this much in contracts, ever. Well, they got off of Karl Anthony Towns' 50 something million contract to take on Julius Randle's and also a very, very great role player in Dante DiVincenzo as well. Now let me talk about why I just do not like this trade. Immediately, the first thing that's going to come up on people's minds right away is just going to be this team spacing. We went from the greatest big man shooter of all time in Karl Anthony Towns to a guy in Julius Randle who doesn't take a lot of threes and also doesn't make a lot of threes either. He's been up and down when it comes to percentages his whole career, and it just feels like we might not see a great 3 point shooting season this year from Julius Randle, unless it's just going to be unpredictable. We don't know how it's going to be. Is it going to be low to mid 30s, which would be okay? Is it going to be mid to high 20s? It can realistically be either. We do not know how it's going to be for the Timberwolves this season. And when it comes to a guy like Julius Randle, who doesn't shoot a lot of threes, that's going to impact a lot what happens to Anthony Edwards' game. Karl Anthony Towns was an amazing spot up shooter last year for the Timberwolves. And when he had the ball in his hands and he was going to be able to make a play by himself. But most of Anthony Richardson, Anthony Edwards' game comes from penetrating that defense, comes down to getting to that hole, or at least getting to the high post, getting to the block, and being able to post up, hit a turnaround jumper, hit a fadeaway jumper, or like I said before, just getting all the way to that basket. And then when we have a guy like Julius Randle there, that kind of changes stuff a lot. The paint's going to be a lot crowded, and especially if Jaden McDaniels doesn't get that 3 point percentage back up from what he did in the 2022 to 2023 season, this is going to look even worse. And to add on to that, hear this. Not only did the Timberwolves give up the greatest three-point shooting big man of all time, one of their greatest franchise players of all time, for a guy in Julius Randle who can't really spread out the floor and doesn't love playing off ball. Julius Randle's on a 1 year contract. He's on a 1 year contract, which means if he doesn't like living in Minnesota, if he doesn't like only getting paid, what is he at right now? 30 something million dollars? I don't know if you just saw that on the screen, but apparently I have to plug in my computer. I don't even know what his contract's at right now. I think I should search that up. All right, I got the number. And Julius Randle's only making barely less than $30 million next year, and then he has a player option. And when it comes down to a guy like Julius Randle, $31 million in today's NBA, or less than $30 million in today's NBA, is not going to be an option you pick up, especially when there's teams that have cap space. A team that I can see end up picking him up can potentially be the Brooklyn Nets. We saw how the Knicks extended or got their rebuild a lot faster when they picked up Julius Randle. They started becoming a solid team. I could possibly see a team like the Nets do that as well, especially if they don't end up with a premier forward in next year's draft in Cooper Flag. So if the combination of lack of spacing, losing Karl Anthony Towns, getting a guy in Julius Randle who's a lot more ball dominant, and getting a guy in Julius Randle who might not be on your team in next year in 2 years, I don't love this trade at all for the Minnesota Timberwolves. Now, one thing you can say, and I love to put these things in my videos where I'm going to talk a lot about how I don't like one part of the story. But when I talk about a different part of the story, Julius Randle, basically his whole time in New York, has played next to Mitchell Robinson, another guy who can't shoot the three-point ball like Rudy Gobert. So what that thing does tell us is that he's going to be able at least to not completely clog the paint because that's just something Mitchell Robinson did. So there could potentially be some hope that that three-point shot works out because we saw him have to live with that when Mitchell Robinson was on the court for what the last 4 seasons with the New York Knicks. I trust that the Timberwolves should still be a top four seed in the Western Conference last year. I'm going to be honest. Obviously, my NBA full season prediction video is going to come out in the next couple weeks and I had the Timberwolves in the Western Conference Finals. I'm not sure if that's going to happen anymore. I'm going to look back at it. I'm probably going to edit some stuff, and I doubt that I'm going to have the Timberwolves make the Western Conference Finals. I don't like this trade for them. Down to DiVincenzo, he's the perfect plug-and-play combo guard, spot-up shooter off the bench. I think he's going to start some games as well, possibly. We'll see what happens to Mike Conley this season. Is he going to hit a decline? Is he not? Obviously, Rob Dillingham is not ready yet to take that starting position, so maybe we could see some Dante DiVincenzo starting point guard minutes. He did a little bit on the Kings. He did it a little bit on the Bucks as well. So maybe we'll see it. I kind of doubt we do, but him as just a backup shooting guard to Anthony Edwards and kind of being that floor spacer next to a guy like Nickeil Alexander-Walker, who's more of a lockup defender. I like it a lot for the Timberwolves. I think any team Dante DiVincenzo goes to, that team gets immediately better, and there's no denying that. So as a part-time Knicks fan, it hurts seeing Randall leave, but I think the Timberwolves, or it hurts seeing Dante DiVincenzo leave, but I think the Timberwolves at least got good value getting Dante DiVincenzo back. But yeah, it's kind of tough. Let's look on the Knicks side of things now. The only player we got back from this Julius Randle trade was Karl Anthony Towns. We actually had to get rid of Daquan Jeffries to send him in a second round pick, I believe, or maybe cash considerations to the Charlotte Hornets. And like I said with Julius Randle's side of things, immediately when I saw this trade, I was like, what are we doing? Why are we getting Karl Anthony Towns, one of the highest paid players in basketball, after we just paid Jalen Brunson? And we took a pay cut, but we just paid him $35+ million a year. We just paid OG Anunoby so much money. We just took on a Mikal Bridges contract who's making so much money. And there's just a lot of players making a lot of money on the Knicks side of things. And I guess as the fan, that's just not something I should worry about. What I understand what comes down to the cap in the second apron, but trying to win a championship, going over the cap might have to happen. And the Knicks, it's going to happen. They're way over the cap. But like I said, as the fan, I shouldn't be worrying. But that thing in the back of my mind about how we might lose one of these four guys, and OG Anunoby and Brunson, I'm going to assume not Brunson, but an OG Anunoby and Karl Anthony Towns and Mikal Bridges maybe in the next 2, 3 years because we're not going to have the money to keep them. That's just something that's going to stick in the back of my brain because I know that could come sooner or later. I mean, that's what happened with the Minnesota Timberwolves having to lose Karl Anthony Towns. But forget about the cap stuff. I mean, we're not talking about money here. We don't talk about money a lot on this channel, not a lot about contracts. I guess when they happen to sign, we can look at contracts. But we're talking about play style, and let's talk about Karl Anthony Towns in this new Knicks system. Now, the last time Karl Anthony Towns came to a Tom Thibodeau led team or Thibodeau led team, it wasn't great. I mean, they were not have a great connection. Karl Anthony Towns being definitely more of an offensively minded center than defense probably did not rub Tom Thibodeau the right direction or the right way. So that's definitely something. Obviously, Tom Thibodeau is one of the best defensive coaches we have in the NBA. So when we have a kind of soft guy on the defensive side of the ball like Karl Anthony Towns, that's not going to work out great. Now, don't get me wrong. I know that I said he's not a great defender, but he had a very solid defensive year last year with Rudy Gobert in his front court as well. This year, he's probably going to be playing a lot center instead of power forward like he did 2 years ago or like he did last year. Mitchell Robinson's going to be out until January. Even if Mitchell Robinson comes back, I don't know if these two start on the same court. I wouldn't be surprised, but I really do not know. Obviously, defensively, I think the Knicks get slightly worse. I think we got a guy in Karl Anthony Towns who's not the best post defender. I mean, I was already talking about it for a little bit, but we know Karl Anthony Towns is not the same impact defender that Julius Randle was. But offensively, that's when the punch comes in. I mean, come on. He is, in my opinion, and in a lot of people's opinion, the greatest big man 3-point shooter of all time. The floor gets so much more spaced out when we do not have a guy like Julius Randle on the floor. I already talked about some of those problems on the Timberwolves side of things. But when we have a guy like Karl Anthony Towns, either sitting in that corner, either sitting in that short corner, even high post, being able to generate more actions out of it, I love it a lot. And I want to remind you guys, just a couple years ago, there was this graphic on one of the Fox TV shows. I don't know if it was Colin Coward's show. I don't know if it was Nick Wright's show. I don't know if it was Skip Bayless's show. It was someone's show when it was talking about we're giving a poll of every single NBA GM who they want to start their franchise with. Over LeBron, over Giannis, over Jokic. Karl Anthony Towns was the number one guy teams wanted to start their franchise with just a couple seasons ago. And obviously, he's not really that franchise igniter he was thought to be a couple years ago. I think now, though, he's 100% a plug and play guy you can put at the 4 or put at the 5 that can just effortlessly space out that floor, that can catch and shoot, that can provide for himself if he has to. And I think he knows on this team right now, it's not his team. It's going to be Brunson's team. This team's going to be ran through Brunson. We have two elite perimeter defenders, 3 and D guys on the side in OG Anunoby and Mikal Bridges to help spread that floor. And then Karl Anthony Towns not only is going to be a floor spreader, but he's going to be an initiator as well. It looks like I might have to pick a new highlight reel. So overall, defensively, I do not love this trade a lot, but offensively, I think the Knicks ceiling has raised a lot more. We're going to see a lot more spacing on this floor. Not seeing Isaiah Hartenstein on this team anymore. Not seeing Mitchell Robinson for the first couple months. And if we truly get a lineup of Jalen Brunson, Mikal Bridges, Josh Hart, OG Anunoby, and Karl Anthony Towns, we're going to see Brunson's offense go up that much. We're going to see Karl Anthony Towns impact on the offense go up that much as well. And I'm excited to see what we're going to see out of Jalen Brunson and a spread offensive system. So that's going to be it for the video. Hope you guys enjoyed. Tell me your thoughts about the Karl Anthony Towns, Dante DiVincenzo, Julius Randle trade in the comments below. Do you like it? Do you dislike it? Who do you like it more for more? And overall, just what are your opinions on this trade? For me, it was a big surprise. I'm going to assume it was that way for other people too, but just tell me your thoughts on the matter. Hope you guys enjoyed. Make sure to like, subscribe. Hopefully the Knicks win the championship next year, so this trade is stupid. And yeah, see you guys next time. Peace.